The atmosphere in the room was heavy, as if each person there carried the premonition that something big was about to happen. Previous discussions had made it clear that no one had a full idea of what awaited the group in the depths of the dungeon. Still, everyone knew that ignoring the advance of the corrupted spirit was no longer an option. Reports of wounded adventurers, entire unstable areas, and the abnormal behavior of the monsters formed a scenario too worrying to be treated as mere coincidence. Faced with this panorama, Royman took center stage in the decision. He seemed to carry a responsibility that went beyond the political role he represented. His hands held documents and authorizations that would define the immediate future of ORATOry. When he presented the official summons from the management agency, the gravity of the moment became even more evident. It was not a simple permission, it was an order that compelled all families to cooperate. The urgency of the situation demanded unity, even among those who rarely shared the same battlefield. Royman's determination imposed an accelerated pace on events. He made it clear that the expedition would not only be a direct attack on the corrupted spirit, but also a deep reconnaissance of areas that had long been unexplored. This meant greater risks, unstable routes, and an enemy about which very little was yet known. In light of this, he established a rule that would redefine the mission: any available force should be gathered. It didn't matter the fame, size, or social standing of the family. As long as they were able to contribute, they would be summoned. As the leadership absorbed the decision, it became clear that the entire city would be involved. Blacksmiths, healers, strategists, and adventurers of all levels would be put into action. ORATOry, for the first time in a long time, began to prepare for a joint effort that transcended old rivalries. The expedition ceased to be just a military plan and became a symbol, a unified response to a danger capable of altering the balance of the dungeon. As soon as the official decision was announced, ORATOry began to move like a great cog awakening after a long silence. The families, each with their own traditions and ways of operating, began to receive messengers and instructions that left no room for doubt. The expedition would be mandatory, and cooperation between groups that rarely came together was now becoming inevitable. It was an unusual, almost historic scenario, and the weight of this summons echoed throughout the city. In the headquarters of the most influential families, strategies began to be precisely drawn up. Contingency plans, team distribution, surveys of essential equipment, and route control were treated seriously. The tension came not only from the danger of the expedition, but also from the logistical challenge that accompanied it. Taking so many adventurers to the deep layers of the dungeon required impeccable organization. It was necessary to foresee sufficient supplies, reinforce armaments, and ensure that each member knew exactly what their role would be. Meanwhile, the smaller families prepared with a mixture of anxiety and determination. For some, this was a chance to prove their worth and gain recognition. For others, it was a heavy burden, as venturing into such dangerous regions represented a real risk of not returning. Even so, the promise of contributing to the city's safety motivated many to see the mission as something greater than individual ambitions. The dungeon, always unpredictable, made it clear that only unity could prevent a disaster of unknown proportions. The streets of ORATOry reflected this growing mobilization. Blacksmiths forged weapons late into the night, alchemists filled their stocks with potions and healing potions, while merchants crowded around to negotiate last-minute supplies. The city took on a frenetic rhythm, driven by a collective sense of urgency. It was possible to see that, despite their differences, all families were moving towards the same goal: entering the dungeon and confronting whatever was behind that growing threat. With every detail adjusted and the families finally aligned, ORATOry reached the inevitable moment: departure. The dawn of that day seemed different, heavy, silent, as if the city itself held its breath. The entrance to the dungeon filled with equipped adventurers, defined formations, and gazes that mixed focus, tension, and a courage that only those who had faced the unknown could carry. There were no grand speeches or theatrical gestures, only the collective certainty that they were about to descend into something that would demand the utmost from everyone. As the teams entered the first floors, each step echoed the commitment made days before. It wasn't just an expedition. It was a firm response to a threat that had already proven to be real. The organization built by the families was beginning to prove crucial. Safe routes were defined, responsibilities were clear, and no action was taken without purpose. What had previously seemed like a chaotic effort now flowed with discipline, the result of careful preparation and the understanding that failures would not be allowed there. And yet, there was something deeper moving those adventurers. Each carried with them a particular objective: to protect the city, to honor their family, to prove their strength, or simply to survive. But above all, there was a silent understanding that they were writing an important chapter in the history of ORATOry. As they disappeared into the darkness of the lower layers, they left behind not only the illuminated surface of the city, but also any trace of hesitation. The mission was underway, and the future now depended on what they would find in the depths. With the descent complete, The expedition consolidated itself as the largest joint mobilization since ancient times. There was no more room for doubt. From that moment on, every choice and every battle would be decisive, and Orario would await, in suspense, the return of those who dared to face the unknown in its name.